I've referred to the journey of learning for students as they go through the school, or learners as they go through the school. They turn from dependent learners to independent learners. So when a child goes into reception, they are very dependent on the person. They're learning the ropes. There's all the socialization aspects of school, but they're learning the ropes at a very young age. But when you look at the class size in reception in year one, the legislation says that the class size can't be more than 30, but in most cases, the class sizes are at 30 or charged to be at 30. So we have the least independent, the most dependent learners operating in large classes. At the other end of the spectrum, we have the most independent learners, the least dependent learners working in classes of, if we're doing well, 17, and quite often in single figures. That doesn't make sense to me, and less so the longer I've been doing this. Why have we got large amounts of time with very small classes? Now, people will argue that that's about teaching specialism, but we're teaching specialist knowledge to the most independent learners. And there are lots of other techniques, as we've found through the pandemic, to deliver knowledge and understanding that isn't dependent on an adult in the room. But so what would I like to see? I'd like to see a review of early years education numbers. I think the in ratio pre-4 is, we jump from 1 to 3, 1 to 8, 1 to 13 to 1 to 30. I think that's too big a jump. So in terms of investment, if we were looking at how would we do this, I think smaller classes for the younger year groups are essential if we are really going to think about growing and developing learners in the future. I think we need to think again about sixth form education. Yes, we've got the guided learning hours for the qualifications at 180 hours, which mean that's 8 hours a fortnight or 4 hours a week of taught input in any one course. But that was worked out on an average class size. And I think, we know that there's a balance here of getting the specialism range so that we offer a course structure that works. But let's look at some mechanisms that allow taught input, seminar, tutorial style delivery as well, because we've said in other places, it's as much about growing the bodies of knowledge and ways of working as much as it is about the content. So I think we need to look at the system right across the system so that we are reorienting the spending. It's really interesting to see, and although it's changing as post-16 funding is changing, some time ago, the least amount of money was given to the youngest learners within the biggest classes, and the most amount of money was given to the smaller classes with the more independent learners post-16, on the basis that it was said that we need more money to pay on for this specialist learning. It's true that there is equipment and resources that are more expensive, but if we had the most expensive part, the teacher, oriented in a slightly different way, it would allow and release funding to go into the younger years. So I think we need a significant strategic look at the whole journey, because it is making less sense in the modern education world. And certainly we know that if it was better established in the younger years, and if there was stronger input going on there, not to say it's not strong, that in no way is any criticism of what's going on in primary and infant schools, because it is brilliant, but they are stretched at the limit. And the question is whether we could reorient the funding so that it would allow for smaller classes for younger years, so that we're not built around that 30 in a class with one person and then struggling to find teaching assistants to support it. And that's the kind of fundamental review, and certainly the Education Commission and that supports that approach too. And we know that Waters and Brigg House book, the About Our School, suggests the same. We need a complete funding review to suggest that there needs to be a change in the way that we put it together. But that's what I mean about reorienting funding. We need to look at this journey, and the independence and dependence of learners, I think, is a good marker to start to look at how we structure it.